clean. It's to the point.
Yeah, exactly. What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 58 of Climbing the Ladder. I'm your host, ChanmanV, and my co-host over here is the soft-spoken Richard Lewis that we all know.
I'll be very soft-spoken today because it's like 1 a.m. here, so
oh man,
you guys will have to shout to keep me awake.
So actually, the real question is, how many beers have you had, like until now?
When I knew we were having such a special guest on, I vowed to stay fucking sober. So.
Well, guys, so I wanted to do an episode on just building a brand from a caster standpoint of view, and who better to do it with than Mr. Artosis over here, Stemkoski. What's going on, buddy?
Not too much. Kind of early in the morning. I appreciate my European friend here staying up so late to talk to me. And, nothing. It's just this is my morning time. I just ate breakfast, dropped the baby off at her school, and I'm ready to talk to you guys about whatever you have to talk about.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, we don't get a chance to see you talk too much about the business side of casting and all that good stuff. So, I'm pretty excited to get a chance to go through these topics with you. Yeah. But why don't we just kick it off? Kind of start things off by talking about the WCS finals. That just happened, and that you casted for. You solo casted actually part of it too, which was baller, dude. I can't believe you solo casted that long. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was hard.
And then, so let's just get your thoughts on that first. Overall experience with WCS and the WCS finals, season 1, and any critiques, thoughts, that sort of thing.
Well, I have to say I didn't really care for the way it was done. I think, you can just look at it and say this is not the normal production level we have at GOM. And of course, that's because we had to split everything up. And so OSL got that, or OGN got that. So, I get why, but it wasn't up to the quality standard that I normally like to do, and it's not up to the quality standard that GOM is normally up to. And, it is what it is. It kind of sucked to solo cast alone a bit for that long. Like, one group isn't too bad. It's pretty bad, but it's not too bad. But 2 groups is pretty tough. I was pretty damn tired that weekend. I didn't do much on Monday, I have to say.
Yeah, so clear up some of this. There's been some talk about why there was only 3 of you guys on some of the days, and or just you solo casting. I mean, was it a budgeting issue, or was it scheduling, or anything like that?
Yeah, no, this time it was a budgeting issue. There was only supposed to be solo casters on day 1, because that's like the least important day. Definitely something that I don't think we're going to try again at GOM. I strongly doubt that we'll ever go that route again. I think it definitely would have been better to have one strong stream than a couple of what should have been solo casted streams.
Right.
So, I don't know. It was just a budgeting thing.
Okay, that's cool. It was definitely interesting. It was weird for me, actually, seeing you guys in an empty studio, right? I mean, I'm so used to you guys being there, immersed in the whole crowd, and that sort of experience. You guys and Caldor and Wolf. So, the next season is going to be all about that, right? Is the production going to be exactly the same, or is there going to be more of a studio feel to it versus an empty room type of feel?
There's definitely no way that our production is going to be the same level as what we did at the last event. I haven't even talked to them specifically about that, but I think everyone knows that we're going to put together a much better package because we're going to be casting so much. And from what I understand, we're still going to be running all the Challenger League stuff at the GOM studio, so that stuff shouldn't really change. I'm pretty sure about that. Don't quote me. And then for the actual the top level, the Premier League stuff, that's going to be the players are going to be at the OGN studios. But I think we're going to have a much better production on it. I'm not sure, but we actually casted to the studio at this WCS. Because if you look at it logically, right, when all the Korean players and live Korean commentaries at the OGN studios during WCS finals, no one's going to show up to listen to Korean commentary at the GOM studios. So they actually just piped us out, and we actually had some fans there, some hardcore guys showed up, and were actually in the audience listening to us. So I don't know if we're going to try something like that for this next season of Premier League, but I think that could be a good way to kind of balance it out and be like, well, you can go and listen to the Korean commentary and see the players live and stuff. Or maybe if you want to just listen directly to English commentary, you could go to the GOM studio. But I don't know that we're doing that yet. I got to talk to them and figure that out. But I wouldn't be surprised if we gave it a try to that.
Solution. I mean, just have it on the big screen and just have you guys casting, like a viewing party with obviously you guys casting to everybody.
Yeah, it was kind of cool to do that during WCS. I feel like that really saved a piece of it because we didn't have like a lot of fans there. I think a lot of people actually just didn't even know we were doing it, but we gave it a try and it was pretty fun. Like we got to talk with the audience a bit, and normally we're up in like this crow's nest area where we go to commercial and we have 5 minutes and we're like, okay, refill our tea. Okay, talk about what just went on the cast, and then we're back on. So we never really get to see the fans until the very end of the broadcast, if they stay that long. So this was kind of like a fun way, and I think it could be something that we try again.
Right. Richard, did you get a chance to check out the event this weekend?
I did. I mean, first of all, solo casting is a fucking nightmare. Like, no matter how long you've been in the business, and I know everyone was saying like, what a good job you did, but it's like one of those things. It's like an iceberg, man. Most of it you don't even fucking see. Like, it's real hard work. So, grats on that. But I was more interested in like Kaldor's comments.
Yeah, his video, right?
Yeah, I was very interested in all of that. Kind of his take on it all, and I agree with what Dan's saying about how it wasn't. It didn't feel like it didn't feel up to the sort of spectacle that we're kind of used to. But I get there were reasons for that, and it's a shame that budget enters into the equation. I mean, you would think for something this big.
Just to be clear, Dan was talking about the GOM production, right? In particular, not necessarily
I was
OGN
specifically about the GOM production.
Yeah.
The OGN, I actually have no idea. I didn't watch it, so because I was actually casting literally the entire time.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't catch any of that. All the production problems that I was just talking about were actually on the GOM side. So, because that's what I was there for. I saw what was going on with that, and it wasn't what we normally do, obviously.
Yeah, but anyways, Richard, continue. I just wanted to kind of clarify that, just to...
Oh, right, yeah, well, no, you can tell I'm fucking tired already, right? I'm missing the fucking point. It's just sailing well over my head. No, but I mean, I caught it, and I don't know. Look, I'm not the guy to talk to about WCS, really, because from start to finish, I haven't really been on board with it. It doesn't feel like what StarCraft 2 deserves, and...
Well,
I think there's been some very crummy aspects to it, which, if you love the game, you're going to be disappointed with the end product. And I'm looking ahead to the next season where I hope they're going to fix the problems with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the next season will definitely be I think major improvements all around. But just my comments on just the OGN production. I mean, I think Kaldor hit it on the mark on like a lot of things, and the production. Honestly, if it wasn't for the two Seans on the couch, it would have been. I mean, everybody would have been like bitching about the production. Those two guys, that couch probably saved just that type of not lynching, but that type of reaction from the community. So he was right on in making that comment, and it was crazy because you guys were in charge of everything leading up to it, pretty much. So having OGN kind of take the finals there was very, very weird for me. And then just a lot of the little production things like the overlay. I can't believe the overlay was just the standard Blizzard. Like, it wasn't even the new custom Blizzard, much less game hard. It was this. It was the most basic thing you could use. I mean, there's basically no overlay from that standpoint. So I was really shocked from that. Just from all that. So, definitely a lot of things need to be changed. Between even OGN's production. And you guys, I actually didn't have many complaints with what was going on the GOM stream. So. It's kind of interesting to hear that you had a lot of complaints about it. I mean, obviously it was weird, like I said, just seeing you guys in an empty room. But you guys did a great job of casting the game. So I was watching you guys probably more than I was watching the OGN streams. But yeah, so a lot needs to be changed there, and so this time around they're taking the basically the Premier League season, right? Are you guys going to get the finals then? Is that how it works?
Well,
is this like
no.
weird?
I mean, if you look at the way it was divvied up this year, we get, because this was all announced in March, right? So we had already run a GSL season. So we have 3 seasons for WCS total. The whole world does.
Yep.
In this year, and so to divvy that up between the two, OGN gets 1 season and that season finals that we just had. And then GOM gets 2 seasons. So after this whole season, and they'll be running the finals at their own thing, it's going to be like basically an OSL that we will be casting at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we get the last GSL seasons. But for seasonal finals, there's only 1 in Korea this year, and that one's already gone. So
right. Okay,
I
so
think that answers.
Yeah. So how do you feel about all that? I mean, because you guys have been at the forefront of Korean StarCraft for a long time now. You and Nick, and what's your honest opinions on that? Because I feel like just not having you guys there for like 3 months, like doing this kind of more of, I hate to put it this way, but it's more of like a side stream kind of thing. That's just weird for me.
Yeah, well, it's a really complicated political type of thing because, I mean, OGN is the big channel that really helped to make StarCraft 1, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have supported the esports scene forever. GOM is more of a new player. We've really built up a lot in the StarCraft 2 scene, but how big did StarCraft 2 get in Korea before OGN really started doing it? Not as big as maybe it was expected. So it's politically, it's like really weird. Like specifically on the English commentary side of it, obviously, like GOM TV deserves everything in the whole world for that side, but you have to consider the Korean side as well, right? This is Korea, and it's like a funny thing because Korea is the best area, so we're like the best tournament that everyone wants to watch, so everyone really focuses heavily on that English speaking side, and like, what the hell, right? Like, shouldn't GOM have everything? But you have to balance in that Korean side where it's like, well, OGN has some absolutely brilliant Korean commentators. They're on Korean television. They built up the industry. They couldn't just switch over to StarCraft 2 immediately. There needed to be a transition period for all those, like a huge amount of people make their living off of StarCraft in Korea, right? So it was like, it's a more difficult thing than I think most people realize. And of course, for me, I'm not happy about all that. Like, in a perfectly selfish Artosis centered universe, GOM TV gets everything. So, but that isn't the universe that I live in. So, it's hard to say exactly because I see it from all these different angles, and it's not optimal for the English streams, I would say, and I don't think that anyone can argue that. But for the Korean angle, what is the best thing to do? Because we still need to grow it out here. If this is where all the best players are, it's pretty important that it's vibrant in Korea. Or suddenly, what is going to happen to all these pro gamers when they're mostly paid for by Korean sponsors? We need to get actual Korean views to make sure that these teams stay afloat, to make sure we keep our best players. Because if all you have left is Koreans on foreigner teams, StarCraft 2 is going to fall apart really fast, man. It's going to be bad. Everyone's going to have this weird, gross feeling in the pit of their stomach where it's like, yeah, I still like to watch Europeans, but this... not the best. All the best of the best aren't playing anymore, So it is important to like take all that in consideration, I guess.
Richard,
I don't even remember what your question was now, but like, I'm glad I got to say that.
Richard, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's the nail on the head, man. Like, I've heard all the arguments about why haven't we got more kind of English speaking? Why haven't they moved into that direction? And it's just. It's like you say, people don't look at the bigger picture, and that is if you isolate Korea, from StarCraft, if you actually head in that direction, if you were to take, Korean interest out of it, well, what do we actually have? Like, it wouldn't be a lot at all. It's the lifeblood of the scene, and not just in terms of players, fan base, all of that nonsense. Actual money. This is what people don't seem to realize, that this game is still propped up. Largely by the Korean interest, and if that's scaled down, then the whole scene's going to go into some kind of shrinkage, which nobody wants, because we're at a stage now where we're hoping WCS and that kind of global concern is actually going to allow us to, increase the StarCraft 2 scene into something a bit more sustainable long term.
We are starting to see growth. I mean, that's kind of one of the main reasons to have this single storyline in multiple regions to kind of grow those non-Korean regions, right? I'm not sure it's working out exactly that way in this first season.
Until they do region locking, you're paying lip service to an idea. And again, I'm convinced they are going to fix that next season. It definitely needs
next year, you mean, or just next year? Yeah, next year.
Yeah, I appreciate why they haven't had it in place from the start because of all the stuff with work permits and how much time there was to get things set up and whatnot. But obviously, it's something we do need to look at moving forward, or we're just going to end up with the one thing which we didn't want, which I'm not even going to vocalize what that is.
We talked it to death, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think in terms of growth, that's definitely the way we need to head, and I think we will see that happen. But yeah, you can't cut the Koreans out of StarCraft. Long story short, and anything that isolates them or perhaps makes them less interested, like if we start focusing on English only streams, that's a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we could kind of maybe compare with the other regions, in regards to how the partnerships, I guess, is the other regions aren't having this issue, right? Where one, because there's not such a two factors, which is one's just Korean and one's English, type of just partners representing each, right? But the MLG is representing America and IEM is representing EU from this standpoint, right? So it's only one partner that Blizzard's working with in each of those, and I feel like a lot of these issues too would probably not exist if there was only one partner in Korea. And I know it's super complicated. I mean, don't get me. I'm not trying to make this simple at all, but how much of this do you think will be resolved? I mean, will have to be resolved by some type of partnership, like a serious partnership with studios and everything between GOM and OGN?
Well, it's so hard to say, right? Because they're two very different companies. One is completely web-based, one is completely TV-based, and that is really, really different. And I mean, they have a long history of kind of battling each other a little bit, and I don't know exactly how to fix it out here, what's going on with that. Because it does make it a little bit more confusing. It's not as high quality splitting it up like that. It feels like the full heart isn't necessarily in it for the whole scene, because it's like, well, now we're switching formats for the next Premier League season, and we're switching studios, and it's going to be a completely different feel. The thing is, we need to make sure that we have enough tournaments out here and enough interest on TV and on the internet with Koreans, because again, I want to like double underline this for people. Like, you can see the health of where StarCraft, I think, is at by the KESPA teams. The KESPA teams are the most important things in StarCraft 2. Like, some of this other stuff's really important too, right? Like, some of the foreign teams like EG and whatnot are important, but the basis of StarCraft skill comes out of KESPA. Like, it's so important, and that needs a lot of TV viewers. So going the one partner route can be like, how do you do that? Again, in a perfect Artosis-centered universe, GOM is the only partner, and we do everything inside the studio, and everything looks better that I'm casting. But we need to make sure that just Korea overall, and how do you make sure that the Korea views are good? Because we're going to get a lot of English-speaking views. These are the best players people are going to watch. That's the way it's going to be. Like, the production might look a little bit different than a normal Code S season this season, but I still think a lot of people are going to tune in. I think we're actually going to get very similar numbers to the other seasons, watching like myself and Nick in that Premier League, and then we're going to be doing all the Code A type stuff, Challenger League stuff at GOM too. So, I mean, the English views still should be really high. Like, they still should be normal. The games are still going to be fantastic. They're still the best games you can find. As much as I love watching these other leagues, they are not going to measure up to what you're going to see here. So, I don't know about the single partner. I don't know how that would be done. Like, who would you choose? And then both organizations have sway with a huge faction of pro gamers. It's like,
yeah.
It's just so deeply political over here.
Yeah, and it's kind of too bad, because if there was, if they did combine, this is just as hypothetically speaking, one of them bought the other, or just some crazy thing like that, it would just be so straight. I think everything would be so straightforward. And you're right, Korea is like, it is kind of the center of StarCraft 2 right now, whether we like it or not, honestly, but it is. So yeah, hopefully something will be figured out, because I don't love the product right now. I don't love seeing. I'm gonna just be straightforward. I don't love seeing you and Nick not casting the final, like the events, or the final matches and stuff, because it's all about bringing the best of the best, doing the most important events. So, I don't love that at all. So having to compromise on that is, for us, even as fans and viewers, I feel like is not a great thing. So I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out. It's nothing that we can really do, honestly. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about casting. Just your thoughts on casting today versus like 2 years ago, and do you think for yourself casting, how is it different for you, like now than before? Because I watched you guys 2 years ago, and I myself have noticed the difference between you casting now. I mean, now you're definitely more refined and more professional, but I have to say that you don't have that kind of wide-eyedness that you used to have before, which was entertaining in its own right too. So kind of want to get your thoughts on it.
What do you mean by the wide-eyedness? Like,
like I think every time I used to watch you, like in season 1 and 2 and stuff, it'd be like, or every match, it was just it's kind of like when you see things for the first time, like even you guys casting, and there's just that sense of super excitement, like every moment of the season, honestly. And because you've seen so many matches now, you've seen all the best players for years now, so I can't it's pretty natural to not have that same thing.
Well, I mean, I guess that has to happen. I think it actually makes a better product, because like about 5 minutes in the game, I already know what the entire game probably will look like, and like all the branches like form in my mind, and I think that actually makes it a little bit better. Like back in the day, you'd be seeing things, I'm like, oh my god, you can do that. Like, what the hell? But it's good to know everything that can be done, because nowadays the product is so much more refined, what we're saying, and like the analysis is much better, and just the flow of it all. Like, we know when to shut up because action's about to start, whereas back in the day it's like any moment anything can happen because no one knows what the hell is going on. So I totally get what you're saying there, but still there are sometimes some new stuff that I actually like get insane chills over, because I'm like, you just showed me something I didn't know or didn't see or didn't think of, which is hard because all I do is StarCraft, So there's still like pieces of that, but of course it's not going to be as much as before. But like compared to the old days, I guess the whole landscape of how to cast has changed. We've really gotten kind of a formula down as to like what looks good, and back then it was just completely freeform for everyone. Like, everyone was trying to figure out what is the best way to do it, and what is going to get views, and what are people going to like. And we definitely went through like Nick and I went through a lot of different changes with our commentary, and like we've toned up jokes, toned down jokes, toned up analysis, toned down, up, down on everything, right? Like, we've basically fiddled with all the knobs and try to find the best place to be at.
How do you analyze? Do you guys actually watch y'all's broadcasts at the end of every broadcast, or?
Well, we've watched a lot of it. We ask people that we respect for their opinions. We definitely, the biggest way is that we talk about it. Like, we'll go on, especially when we started. Like, when we started and we're casting like 5 or 6 days a week at GOM, every time we went off camera, all we did until we went back on camera was talk about what just happened, and we analyze every little piece. Like, we're becoming we've become really perfectionist on this, where we'll actually go over like every word sometimes.
Oh, wow.
I'll be like,
nice.
oh, this sentence, like, what was this? Or you know, and especially back then, it was we did it a little bit more because we didn't have it kind of down. Nowadays, there's a lot of times where we're like, we just look at each other, we're like, good job, that was good, really liked it, like the energy, let's keep it up. But there have been a lot of times where I might be like, ooh, I or Nick will say, Dan, I don't think you used this word quite right. I think that this is more of a negative connotation. You were meaning it for a positive way or something. And you know, it's a huge like process over. You know, it's like we've just casted more than everyone, so we've gotten to do this over and over, and we're really hyper self-critical, and we both can take criticism from each other completely well because we're like actually best friends and we're really professional about it. So I guess that's how we kind of honed in on everything. Like, yeah, I can literally be like, Nick, you're sucking today. You got to fix this, and this. You'd be like, I am sorry. I'm going to fix this, and this. And, of course, he'll do the same for me as well.
Yeah, I do that to Richard all the time, man. No, but that's awesome having a partner to do that because, you know, a lot of casters right now don't have that counterpart that you can, you know, literally work with them like that. You'll have this understanding and can just... after each broadcast can actually improve yourself, so that's pretty awesome.
I think that's been the best thing, like in terms of watching the development of StarCraft 2 casting, because like what I hated when everyone realized StarCraft 2 was going to be a money spinner, suddenly we had this like glut of wannabe casters, right? Like, and obviously you had people who, you know, I mean, like everyone suddenly was, oh yeah, I fucking love Brood War. You never heard them talk about StarCraft, like at the time, no one mentioned it. Like, and then there was these guys trying to get in on the gravy train. I mean, one of the reasons why, you know, I respected like people like Dan and all that was their pedigree was there. You know, like you fucking knew these guys were hardcore StarCraft fans. Like, there was
players.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, former players. But I mean, like, you know, they give a shit, right? Like, you know, whatever. Don't judge them on their achievements. Judge them on longevity. Judge them on activity. That's how you judge people, right? You know, and so at the start of StarCraft 2, you had all these, like, everyone wanted to be a fucking StarCraft 2 caster. And we actually had a lot of lousy ones. And even the guys who've gone on to be good ones were kind of, you know, lousy because, as you rightly point out, no one really knew what the fuck was going to happen, you know, in the competitive games. We were watching it, like, and as you say, you know, sometimes be taken aback because, like, holy shit, I didn't even know we could do that yet. So what's been great is over that you know, that 2-year period, first of all, we weeded out the wannabes. They've moved on to, like, League of Legends, you know, whatever's popular now, right? And they've left StarCraft 2 well behind and left it for the good guys.
Hold on, I gotta watch the stream chat for shots fired. I know that's coming up right now. No, go ahead.
I say it all. I say shit all the time. People shit on me. They hate me. I'm here to be that guy. So, but I am saying that, and it's the truth. But the guys who stay behind have developed their real, if you like, rapport with the community. They've honed their repertoire, and you can see just how good they are. I mean, like, I would say out of all the casters we've got, like right now across every game, it's the StarCraft 2 guys that probably get closest to being ESPN quality, you know?
Better.
Yeah, or better, exactly. I mean, they work so fucking hard at it, and and the best thing as well, I love seeing you guys break into StarCraft 2. You know, guys like Kalaris and guys like that. Because if you wanted to start being a StarCraft 2 caster now, shit, man, you really must want it. Because guys like Dan and all that at the top have got it fucking, you know, sewn up. You know, who's going to want to pick the new guy? And guys like James getting a job at ESL, I mean, that's like a huge success story in what is a very competitive industry and a very difficult industry to break into. So for me, I think it's been watching the guys hone their craft and become top-level pros. I mean, like, you know, I could imagine a guy like Dan, or, you know, I had Apollo on my show yesterday. You know, I could imagine them on TV commentating a football match. You know, like, they're that good. And we've got rid of all the guys that really didn't understand the game and couldn't do actual commentary. Commentary isn't just running a play-by-play narrative of what's happening on the screen. Commentary is adding a context and an analysis that you can't get anywhere else.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, a lot of the actual sports analysts and sports productions, they actually have an army of people that are kind of providing the same thing that, like, two guys do in our productions. So
exactly,
it's, you know, I think that's what makes it even more impressive. But Dan, so, like, what do you need to improve on? Like, as a caster, what do you yourself think that you could improve on?
Oh, I've got a long list of that. Oh my God, I'm always trying to improve. But But like for instance, me personally, sometimes I overuse phrases or words. Everyone does that. And
Yeah.
one of my biggest challenges is catching myself before the community does, which I've actually become pretty damn good at. They used to like be like, "You say this too much." I'm like, "Oh my god, I do," and they do that with like several words, like weeks after weeks. But that's like one thing I really try to stay on top of. Got to open up that thesaurus.com and figure out different ways to say things. I oftentimes make up words. Like I want to say something and I have the words that I want and I try to like turn them into adjectives or something, and then I just kind of laugh because I'm like, this. I mean,
Hey, that's
I'm sure
awesome though. There's
yeah,
nothing
see,
wrong with that.
I'm sure there's some sort of charm to it, but is that truly great commentary? I can't say that it necessarily is. There's definitely times where I stumble when I'm speaking, especially when I'm getting like really, really excited. I sometimes do stumble over words, and I've gotten pretty good at saving myself, but it doesn't. My words don't always come out perfectly in that regard. Let's see.
Well, I mean, I'm not. Gonna,
I mean, there's a lot
I'm not
of
gonna
funny
list
stuff
them
that I need to
all
work
out,
on.
but
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, what would you say to? I mean, Richard made a really good point about being a caster these days is pretty damn hard because honestly, there's not. I don't think there's enough jobs, like really our gigs out there right now for, and kind of the trend of the industry is really for organizations to hire casters, right? So I mean, you guys obviously with GOM, and like Axel and Axlab with MLG, and at the time NASL, right, had all the NASL has their group of guys, and so on and so on, right? What do you like? Would you encourage people to cast? I mean, actually pursue casting these days? No, I mean,
Well,
seriously, it's.
you can try, but like
You can
I
do
feel
anything
like
you want.
the casters that can be hired at an event, like we haven't had anyone that gets regularly hired at an event since Kalaris. He was the last guy in that actually regularly gets events, and that's because like at this point all of us have so much practice, and practice makes perfect, man. Like the more that you stay there and people don't crucify you out of the scene, it gets harder and harder and harder because all of us are getting so much practice all the time, working on it all the time, and everyone's like working their asses off, right? So there's very little room left, but there is, like, you can still see people rising up. Like Nathanias is doing, he's doing this next DreamHack. He got a break, and he worked hard, and he tried, and here he is. He's going to get a break, and we'll see if it works out for him. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We've seen other people get breaks. Like, you see Jorosar hitting events every now and then, right? Like, these are not the top-end, top-name casters, but they are at least working hard enough to get a shot somewhere. So the thing is, it matters how badly you want it. You have to want something so bad in esports to actually achieve it. And if you don't want it that bad, well, I mean, you can do it in your free time. Maybe, you have like 50, 100 viewers or something on your YouTube videos, and you're like, yeah, no, that's cool. I just enjoy to do it. That's great. But if you're trying to make this into a career, that is going to be ridiculously difficult. And at this point, like after I kind of noticed maybe about a year ago that we weren't going to have anyone really new consistently getting events, and I figured, you know what, and here's the thing, pros are going to start retiring and becoming casters. So this is probably it for non-pros. Like, if you want to be a caster, it might even be easier to become a pro first so you have credibility and then become a caster, which is insane, but there's like no casting spots, especially now that WCS is out. There's like just less events overall, it feels like. So there's like it's the way it is, and I think that almost all the upcoming casters from now on are going to be those ex-pros.
Well, I mean, one thing about ex-pros that isn't a given, their knowledge is obviously a given, but they're not necessarily good play-by-play guys, right? So from the standpoint of play-by-play, I think there's still some opportunity. Obviously, there's a lot of good play-by-play guys right now, but we always talk about players. And, we're always missing these segments under professional gaming right now. Well, casters are missing the same thing, too. We need more smaller tournaments so we can get, some of these up-and-coming casters, too. Some
I think the thing with the casting at the moment, though, Chris, is like, right, What you need when you're coming into casting is you've got to bring something new to the table, and you know, with guys like Dan and you know all the other names that we know about, you know, have been there for such a long time, established. Yeah. The community love them. It's what they want. They cry out for them to be at every event. They are almost at every event. You can divide it, you know, between them. The guys who are coming up now take their cues from them. They emulate them. Yep. So why would I want some new guy who's a knockoff of Artosis when I can have Artosis?
That's the real
problem.
Artosis.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem you've got right now. So I'd say as well as anything else, if you're a new and upcoming caster, at least have a fucking style. You know, I mean, I hear guys who sound, you know, new guys coming up now. You sound just like you have to do a double take. You're like, is that Mr. Bitter? Is that? Yeah, and it isn't, right? It's just some new dude. So, you know, I think that's another vital thing. You got to bring your own shit, like be it good or bad, to the table, and let the community decide if they want more of that. You know, it doesn't happen enough. But to be honest, I think the last thing StarCraft 2 needs now is more casters. There's definitely lots of fucking job opportunities where we could actually use good esports people. Casting probably isn't one of them. I think StarCraft 2's got an embarrassment of riches in that department.
Right. All right. Straight up, Dan. Casters overpaid right now?
No.
Before?
No. What?
Before?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
Jesus, this is people don't actually understand how hard casting is. Like.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think that they can until they've done 14 hours at an MLG and then slept for 5 and then come back and done 14 more and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
It is so hard. You have to be on. Like there's no way. We're at this point, like the amount of views that we get on some of these streams, there is no possibility anyone could ever convince me casters are overpaid. And in fact, I would say in most cases they are underpaid. Like it is a hard job. You are the one bringing the storyline. You have to know your shit. The amount of time that I put into StarCraft is more than anyone works on, like, a normal job, right? Like, you think I only put 40 hours a week into making sure I know my shit for StarCraft? Oh, no. I'm far more than that. And, you know, 15 years as well of that, too, to even start getting paid. So, definitely not.
Richard,
not overpaid.
I know you've had opposite opinions of this, so...
Yeah, it's right. Look, I'm not saying right. You cannot make a generalization, and I know I love to fucking talk in generalizations. That's my that's my whole career in a fucking nutshell, right? People are saying this, I'm going to say the other thing, and you know, and just have at it, guys. But the reality is, you know, no one would begrudge. Like if Dan was to fucking lay it bare now and say, like, you know, I'm coining it in, boys, like, but I fucking worked for it and I earned it. You'd have to be a real piece of shit to begrudge him that money. You know, like serious. But equally, you know, there's other casters that don't work anywhere near as hard, and that's where I think we start getting into the grey area. You know, I talk to a lot of players when I'm at events doing my interviews and whatnot, and you know, when we have a few beers and kick back afterwards, there is like amongst some of them an almost prevailing resentment. You know, that it's like, on the one hand, yeah, we put in way more hours than so-and-so does to be a caster, to be a player, and we finish out at the top 8 and we get fuck all money. I know they're flying, you know, first class, we're flying budget, you know. So, you know, there is that there. And not only that as well, you know, now you've got this thing, as you were talking about, Dan, where players are getting resentful of players who weren't even good enough to get 32. And now they're going to be casters, right? Like, and they're going to make more money off doing that than they ever would have seen as a competitor. So, you know, I can kind of sympathize with that a little bit. You know, I really can.
This is actually a mindset that I see pop up every now and then. That is such the wrong way to look at things, because players may be underpaid. That does not mean that casters are overpaid.
Right,
that is not. Those do not. There is actually no correlation there. Okay, that has nothing to do with each other. That, like, they are such different worlds. Whenever I see anyone complain about that, I'm like, dude, what do you want me to tell you? Go be a caster. Then there is problems with what some players are paid. Absolutely, that is true. A lot of players are underpaid. Yes, that doesn't mean that casters are overpaid. That is
No, and
like
that
the
exactly,
worst fallacy I've ever heard.
Yeah, no. I totally agree with that. But equally as well, there's some problems that face players that will never face a caster. You know, I cover a lot of stories when I'm doing, you know, my journalistic stuff. You know, doing whistleblowing on leagues that don't pay prize money in a timely fashion, right? So players are getting shafted. You know, or organizations that promise them a salary and then you know, fuck them over. You know, like I broke the story about MTW and their nonsense. So you know, but that I've never heard of a caster not getting his paycheck. Well, once actually.
Oh, that happens.
No, that happens.
Sorry, there's
Come on,
benefits
that
that have not paid me. That
So
is
why
true.
why isn't that coming out then? You know, because again, that would actually help the perception, right? And again, I'm talking about it from the player perspective. Players look at what casters have, and I'd say they're envious, and I don't think that's a good thing for any competitive.
No, that's
esport, right?
No, I get it. I understand why some players get envious and upset about how much a caster makes or something, but the answer isn't to say, well, they should get paid less because we're not doing all. No, that is the worst thing. That sets the whole industry back. You guys should get paid more.
Yeah.
And the thing is, who should get paid more? It's actually really hard when I actually start asking the questions to some people. When sometimes I have like a lot of pro gamer friends, and to ask, be like, well, who is it that's drastically underpaid? And well, for the most part, it's actually Korean players because they're much better. So what are we basing what you're paid like as a player, right? Like, and that's like a whole other box of worms.
And I got to be honest, dude. Like, I mean, that is a huge. When I saw how, like, I presumed, man, the Korean players would be living in a utopia, you know, money, bitches, the dream, right? And then I saw my first Korean gaming house with like 12 dirty mattresses on the floor and stuff, and I was like, what is going on here? Like, this is crazy. So you're right, man. I mean, and you know, I'm just kicking the hornet's nest to see what flies out, right? I haven't got strong feelings either way. I know how hard you work. I know how hard Apollo works. I wouldn't begrudge them a penny, no matter what it was, no matter what amount it was, because I'm a great believer in you work hard, you earn. You know, you can sleep easy knowing you've earned your money. But there's definitely some other problems, and within the industry. And I think maybe, and this is the one thing I would say, some casters turn a blind eye to those problems and aren't as vocal about them as maybe they could be to help speed things along. Like, I'd like to see casters that are really prominent in the scene use their influence to maybe start to get people to fix these problems. Like, for example, if you know a league hasn't paid out their prize money in a timely fashion, say, we're not casting your event until you pay out that prize money. And, you know, that would be a way, I think, that, you know, everyone could kind of work together to really progress, you know, some of the problems we have in StarCraft 2 right now.
Well, you know, there has been a lot of talk about, like, I hear mutterings every now and then about things like unions and stuff like that, and like using a block of either casters or players and casters. But I mean, I don't know if we're exactly there yet. I've heard the murmurings, but you know, right now we're in this weird transitional period in StarCraft 2 where, you know, last year it was all about, I don't know the right word, like maybe capitalism or something. Everyone just battled everyone, and, you know, just the best rose to the top, the worst were falling off. Yeah. And this year we have this weird, like, Blizzard came in and flattened everything out, and so it's like, I don't know that right this second is the best time for something like that. I mean, there definitely have to be improvements all around, and a lot of those would be definitely with players as well.
Well, you know what's funny is because, like, we're talking about, like, players should be paid more, and you're talking about, you know, they should be paid based on skill, and
well, no. I mean, here's the thing: should they be paid based on skill? I think I posed more of a question like, what would you base that off of? Because actually, a personality is very important. Because you can have a ridiculously good player, but if he's a robot in front of the camera, no one relates to him, and he doesn't have as many fans as someone else, like MC, for instance, right? Like, he's a bad example because he's so fucking good too.
He's good too.
There are players out there that just have a personality but aren't as good, who might actually be worth more, because this is entertainment as well. This isn't about winning enough prize money to stay alive. This is about more than that. You have to, you know, be a personality, and through being a
it's-
personality and being good. That's how you. It's hard because it isn't mapped out yet. Like no one's
Well,
done it perfectly.
it's about it's exactly about entertainment, and how you define entertainment is, like in other sports. This is where I kind of have this view of one thing that we need to improve as an esport is the production side of it, because I think it's not as entertaining to see like some of the top level players win sometimes, or just in general, because our game is something that's very hard to it's hard to demonstrate why they're so amazing and why they're so much better than you at home, because you don't actually physically get to see them controlling, the actual units. Like they're, you get that frame of them sitting there with the keyboard and mouse, moving super fast and controlling the units at the same time. You can only see like what's on the board, and actually what's on the screen isn't even necessarily what's going on in the entire game too, because there's a lot of macro actions that are going on that you don't even get to see. So that's actually a problem we have with just our sport, is that we haven't figured out how to show how impressive these players are yet.
Yeah.
And I think if we can, then some of these guys that we say have no personality can still be entertaining, and they can, we can help grow the whole thing even bigger.
Well, that's a big job of the commentator too.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you guys deserve to make like the money you make, is because you facilitate that bridge or that role that's missing right now.
Yeah, it's really important that commentators, like a big tip to commentators out there, you have to make or help make the players into stars, right? Like you need to actually tell this player's story. You need to do your homework and know why Sase is so fucking interesting and how he moves out into Asia all the time for better practice and sacrifices tournaments and money to do so and stuff. And it's like, you need to know why it's really interesting that, who Grubby is and what he did before and how long it took him to get back up to skill. And like, these are like such important stories, and you need to have casters doing this. It's not just about the way that they're playing in the game, but that's also important too. You have to, as a caster, be able to be like, this is why this is amazing. This is why I am so impressed, and you should be too. So
yeah.
It's
like when I hear you talk about like innovation, for instance, right? And obviously you're explaining, oh, he's dropping everywhere at the same time while he's still maintaining his macro at home. Like he's not missing any steps at home. Just even those kind of explanations right there, kind of at least put us in perspective, put the perspective to the viewers that, oh man, I can't do that. There's like no way in hell I could do that. So that's why this guy is such a superstar. But
I think as well, though. I mean, like it's a very weird part of the industry. Like I'm a purist. Like I want the money to be on a meritocracy in terms of skill and ability. I think that's more. We kind of see that it's more in line with what you see in other sports, I guess.
But it's just what's entertaining. I mean, you can't get away from the fact that it's just what's entertaining. In other sports, when I watch LeBron James go and freaking tomahawk dunk the ball, I know I can't do that, so that's why it's entertaining to me, to see that.
Yeah, but that in itself is about talent, not necessarily just entertaining, and it's something very unique to esports. Yeah. Like, I've been a manager of an organization, Dan's done that as well, and when sponsors were talking to me, I'd be like, so, where do you want us to finish? What do you want us to achieve? And they'd be like, give a fuck, just tell us about the numbers.
Okay.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if you finish last, right? Like, it was just literally, go out there and just make sure everyone sees. Even if you fail, make sure everyone sees it, right? And that was their priority. I don't know if it was different for you.
Okay, keep going. Sorry, Richard.
No, I was just gonna say, so I just think when it comes to esports as a whole, it's one of the things that it's a unique problem that we overvalue it, maybe, the entertainment aspects of it rather than just purely going on the meritocracy of who's the better player.
I disagree with that, because just to kind of I guess preface my point I'm about to make, just look at the streams today. Like, I was talking to Monk or just the TL guys about the featured stream recently, and some of the things I was talking to them about, I kind of one of the things that came up was just, super good players, Korean players like Jaedong, or just a lot of those players that stream nowadays. And it's like, why don't those guys get 15, 20,000 people watching them based on their merit, right? I mean, just based on how good they are, right? And it's because that today stream, like maybe about a year or two ago they would have, but today's StarCraft 2 community, we're not entertained that much anymore just by watching some guy play a game. You know, just watching like a no cam game being played and with no commentary, right? So what we deem as entertainment these days is like much different, right? So and again, like it has a lot to do with what I was just the point I was making before, just the impressiveness of it. Like when you can't see the guy, you know, when we're just watching the game being played, that just doesn't do anything for us now. And I think maybe we've been spoiled by some of these streams that do have commentary. That like Idra, for instance, right? He never used to commentate. He used to just play, right? And everybody would watch him. Like 10,000 people would watch him. But nowadays,
but they weren't watching him for what he did. They were watching him for his reaction to what he was doing, his rage and stuff.
No, not necessarily.
That was definitely a big part of it.
You think so?
That is definitely a big part of it. It can't just be. You can't just say it was because of his skill. It was a combination of an interesting story, a good skill, and like the rage that everyone wants to see.
Yeah. Okay,
you know?
okay, I give you that. That's true. That's true.
It's,
but anyway,
there's a lot of factors for any of these streams and their numbers.
Yeah, exactly, and this is why, you know, I think it is a shame. I totally get why for a stream it helps if you're entertaining, but you know, I know for an organization to prop up an average player with a lot of money and to give them a career that many people are envious of when we know they're ultimately a mediocre talent. It's a dangerous precedent to kind of set in any industry that wants to be about competition. And that, you know, I've always been a little bit wary about that kind of direction that we've moved in within esports, that, you know, we're definitely becoming a slave to the numbers. Like, what's popular is what's good, and we're not even going to fucking discuss or debate that anymore. It just, that's what you're stuck with in esports. Yeah,
right. Well, okay, guys. Well, why don't we take a quick break, and we'll get to branding like right after the break, and kind of get to the theme of this show. But kind of hard not to talk with Dan about all these interesting issues. But all right, we'll be right back, guys. So here's some music for you guys. right, we are back from break. Hopefully you guys enjoyed one of these rare climbing the ladder breaks. But I promise we're going to do them more often, like from here on out. So.
He only took a break so he could tell me to shut the fuck up. You're disagreeing with me on my show.
Oh, please,
How
man.
dare
Everybody
you
disagreed with me on my show.
That's what happened off air, guys. He's a fucking bully, this Chris Chan.
He is. He was being mean to me. It was really weird.
Oh my god.
Such a control freak.
That's funny. Control. All right, so let's get to the theme of the show, which is building a brand as a caster. A successful caster is actually the official title. So I want to kind of talk to you about that because I feel like a few brands have kind of, I guess, spun off of that you're related to. And first off being Artosis, obviously your name, and then Tastosis, the casting archon, right? And the Handsomenerd, right? So talk to me a little about Artosis. I know you just kind of told me, but you didn't tell Richard. Right. So how did you come up with the name Artosis?
I've said it a few times, Spokely, but here's exactly what it was. I was an arrogant little kid at video games. I just thought I was like the greatest video game player ever when I was, a young teenager and stuff. And I guess it was year 2000. I was playing a lot of StarCraft, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to become famous at this. And it wasn't like a quest for fame. I'm just like, I'm going to play this so much. I'm going to be so good. People are going to know my name and be like, oh, that guy is really good. Like, because I was just like intrigued that there was such a hard video game that I could play on the internet. So I was like, all right, I need to have my own ID, which this is like the beginning of branding for me, where I'm like, I have to have an ID nobody has. Because you see people with like, I'm like, oh, which hero are you talking about, right? That's terrible branding. Whereas if you have a completely made up word, then I guess that's good, because I have like /Artosis on everything, Twitter, Facebook, everything. It's just that's because I made the word up. So I sat there and I'm like, I need my own ID because I want there never to be a mistake when people are talking about me, because I was such an arrogant little StarCraft 1 player. So my first ID, because I was playing Diablo before, so my Battle.net ID that I was using on StarCraft, because I just used